Well, thank you, Caleb. I should say one more thing. Like the people I've interacted with at Startup Junkie, absolutely phenomenal. So just a human component of it as well. Like Caleb wouldn't say it because he's himself, but like great people, right? So just a great community to join.
We're not half bad.
Cool. So very humble, very humble. Cool. So I'll get started. Let me share my screen here, and we're going to talk about SEO. And it's a pretty cool session. I enjoyed this one a ton because I think it's one of those kind of where you're going through content, but having the knowledge that, or the topics we're going to approach today, I believe they can give you a competitive advantage. And so I think that's pretty cool. And so I'll just get started. Can you guys see a screen that's on the chat? Can you see a screen that says the future of content strategy is a green slide? Yeah, cool. And so on a scale-up mention, right, we're proud partners of Startup Junkie with this program we call Hubs for Startups, which is basically HubSpot attempt to have a significant impact in the startup community globally. Right, I work with the U.S. and Canada startups, so we're global. So we're in Belgium, we're in the Czech Republic, and everywhere in the world, and we're really trying to help startups grow better. And so we have, these education sessions. We have, of course, access to the HubSpot software platform at scholarship prices, or discounted prices up to 90%, and we have an integrated platform for startups, and we have all these programs to help support startups grow. So we really love startups, and I personally do as well. So again, my role is to help with startups growth and partnerships in the US and Canada. And and if you want to know more, I'm sure that the Startup Junkie has some link to our program, but here it is again, hubs.com/startups, where you can learn more about what we do. So go right into the agenda. We're going to talk about SEO, and we first need to talk about how it has changed in the past 7-8 years, because there's been rapid, significant change in the past less than a decade on SEO, which has changed completely how we should approach it. I remember I came to the US to an MBA 12 years ago, and I remember we had a session about SEO, and Google was semi new then. It was less than 5 years. And I remember that whole session was about keywords and keywords and keywords. And the last 7 years has been a radical shift on how you approach SEO. And it's, heads up, it's not keywords. So we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about how this concept of a topic cluster strategy is the new approach to winning at SEO. And we're going to finish it up with a few slides, not a few, actually, I would say probably like a third of the slides are about how do you actually execute on this concept. So we're going to talk about the 3-step process to creating topic cluster. So hopefully at the end of the day, you'll know more about SEO than you know right now, but you also have a tangible, executable guide on how to actually execute on these concepts. Cool. So first, let's go back. Before we go forward, we need to go back. We need to look back at it. When you say SEO, we all think of Google, right? Bing has tried. My wife used to work at Microsoft, and we tried for Bing. But the reality is, I think something like 95% of website traffic is to Google or some of its assets. So if we want to understand SEO, we need to understand Google and its algorithms. And the reason I have that logo there with the hummingbird is the most significant change in the past 10, well, not 10 because it was in 2013, but in the past 7 years was this update named the Hummingbird update. So maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. For those of you who haven't, or for those of you who have but don't really understand the significance of that update, that's when Google really moved to more artificial intelligence search engine optimization. So the 3 main pillars of what Google introduced with Hummingbird was the ability for semantic and using natural language to process searches.
Sure.
Was there a question? Sorry. All right, I'll keep going. Second is the customization of results. So how can I give you results? How can Jose have a different result page than Casper if they're doing the same exact search and it's looking at searcher intent and context? And I have a few examples later on what that means. And the third thing is conversational, right? We're answering questions. We're, again, processing natural language. So we're moving from this world of, in the past, we're optimizing for a specific keywords. Now we need to win SEO by optimizing our results and our authority on topics. And a little bit more about that. And I hope I'm not worrying you, but this is the context of why we're moving to Topic Cluster. So we had the Hummingbird update in 2013. Then we had, in 2014, we introduced Pigeon. So Pigeon, not we, Google introduced Pigeon. So Pigeon was now introducing another element to the algorithm, which gave more relevance to local kind of suppliers and searchers. So if I'm doing search for restaurants in Boston, I'm going to have more relevant. And if you're doing restaurant search in your place, you're going to get your restaurants in your city. I'm going to get restaurants in my city. So Google is optimizing for local offers. And also we had the mobile update where, like, if you have a mobile friendly site, it will rank better. If you have security certificates, it will rank better. And then we got RankBrain in 2015, which is 5 years ago, but a ton of people have not adapted to this. So this is where the competitive advantage comes in, right? So RankBrain is kind of like the consequence or the next iteration of Hummingbird, in the sense that Hummingbird was trying to introduce a way of processing queries differently. But what RankBrain did is they introduced artificial intelligence trying to interpret intent. What that means is what Google is looking at when you do a search is it is not looking at the exact words in your search. It is trying to interpret what you mean by that search. So an example is if you Google Olympics location, right? If you Google Olympics location, it could mean a ton of things, right? It could mean where is it the Winter or the Summer Olympics, right? Is it the location of the last one or the location of the next one, right? If one is going on right now and I look for, like, let's say the last Olympics just finished and I look for location, the algorithm can interpret that most of the searches, when they say Olympic location, they're trying to see which is the next Olympics going to happen, the next Summer Olympics going to happen. So it will give you results based on that. If the Olympics is going on and you're in the Olympic Village and you type Olympics location, it would actually give you the map's directions to go to the inauguration event because you're there. So again, same search, different context, different results. So RankBrain is trying to understand what is the intent of what you're looking for. And so that's the biggest shift. And that's why when we're trying to optimize for SEO, we can't only think of optimizing for specific keywords. So what happens after this is, and this is just a couple of examples of how much more complex the Google results page have become. So it's overwhelming, right? So for us, it was overwhelming as well. We had when these updates came in, HubSpot had like 15,000 blog posts that were affected by these changes, and it was really hard for us, right? In a keyword world, let me move this here. In a keyword world, we had this kind of hierarchy of authority in SEO, right? Like HubSpot.com, that domain had the most authority. Then we had the child of that was the blog.hubspot.com. So we had a ton of authority as well, less than the HubSpot.com URL or domain. And so we had all these blog posts. And what you did is if you go from down to up, you're increasing authority, and everything kind of sums up all the way up. That structure is great if you're working on keywords. But if you're working with Google and Google is trying to interpret intent and it's looking at topics instead of specific keywords, you get into trouble, right? Because what we start seeing is our content was competing in the eyes of Google, was competing with each other. Because in the past we had keyword specific content. So we had a blog post which was optimized for content marketing for virtual reality. And we had another one, which was a more comprehensive guide for modern marketers. But in the eyes of Google, because of the way we had set up our infrastructure of content and SEO, for Google, these two were actually competing with each other. And the worst part is there was no way for us to tell Google, well, this content on the left is more niche. This is very specific for virtual reality. It's content marketing, but very specific for virtual reality. Whereas this 3,000 word, very comprehensive piece of content on content marketing strategy is way more important, and it's way broader. And there, because of this architecture, Google could not know that. You just basically look at two blog posts about content marketing, and they were both competing with each other. So that was a real problem, and we had to figure that out. Now, again, it's 15,000 blog posts that we had to kind of reorganize. So then someone came in, very smart SEO person at HubSpot, and understood what these changes in Google meant and what it meant for us, and how we had to structure our content. And so we came up with this concept of the pillar content strategy, or the topic cluster strategy. So what we did is we wanted to be able to tell Google, hey, if the concept, if the search intent is related to learning about content marketing strategy, the most important piece of content we have is this article, this long piece, ultimate guide that we have on the right. That's 3,000 words. That's going to be our pillar for that content, for that topic. Now, we'll have niche satellite articles that reinforce that topic. And so that's like the how to create content marketing strategy for virtual reality, the 5 best tips for 2020, the biggest mistakes you can make on content strategy, why SEO is crucial for content marketing strategy, stuff like that. So that's more specific. Those are subtopic posts. So we will organize it this way. At the center, we have the ultimate guide, the pillar content, and we have these satellite pieces of content that are interlinked to the pillar content. So now we're able to tell Google, hey, the most important part of our content is that pillar content. And now these other pieces of content we know are just niche articles, very specific for very specific purposes. So that's how we try to do this. And so here's infrastructure, right? We have, again, a pillar content that is the extensive guide, a long piece format content. And then you reinforce that, your authority on that content, with writing about niche subtopics, satellite topics that are linked to your main article. So you start actually with the small ones, and then you build the large piece of content, and you have hyperlinks between the small ones linking back to the big one. And so that tells Google, okay, so that big one is the important one. And so what happens when you do this is you actually start establishing authority on topics, kind of regardless of the keyword. I mean, the keyword is still important, but what you do is that now you're covering a wider range, a wide array of keywords, because you're covering the keywords with a topic. So one topic could cover thousands of different variations of on keywords, right? So if you're writing about spatula, in the old world, you would have an article for spatula, and then you're optimizing for the keyword spatula. You will optimize for rubber spatula. You will optimize for cooking spatula, for pancake flipper. You will need to have an article for each keyword because you were ranking for keywords. Now you could have the ultimate guide to spatulas on your website, and you will be covering all the 50, 100, 1,000 different variations of that same word. And the result of this being done right is you could actually own the entire first page of the Google results. So this is an agency I know in Chile, and they built content authority on the concept of inbound sales in their country of Chile. And so if you were to search for inbound sales in Chile, the entire first page is owned by this company named IDS, right? Not one article. It's not like they're getting the first result. They're getting the entire first page. As you can see, they have that event they run with Jose Martins on inbound sales. That's the first result. The second result is their agency. The third result is HubSpot mentioning the agency. The fourth result is a PR post mentioning the agency. Even the last one is also another PR post, also about that same agency. So the entire first page of Google results is owned by IDS, just because they use this topic cluster strategy. The other cool thing is this authority is pretty solid. What I mean by that is, if you're doing things right and you achieve this level of authority, it's really hard to knock you down. And an example of what I mean by that is, I did this search when I was preparing the first time this presentation, which was maybe like 4 months ago. I ran this search. So this is, let's say, June 2020. One really cool thing to notice here is the piece of content that IDS invested in developing in January 2017, so that's 3.5 years ago, is still ranking first for the topic inbound sales. What that means is, yeah, they spent some money and time on developing that piece of content, but that piece of content for 3.5 years have been generating traffic and leads for their business. So it's a great investment, and the cost of customer acquisition really goes down rapidly as time goes by. So I just wanted to share that real quick. And again, IDS everywhere. So what's next? Here's another example, right? Here's a HubSpot example of the ultimate guide to e-commerce. This is supposed to be, e-commerce is a pretty complex topic, but we still wanted to create this pillar page with the most comprehensive possible overview of that topic. And then what we do is we create these satellite subtopics around, or sub-articles around, targeting more niche content related to e-commerce. So we have the ultimate guide to e-commerce, and then we have this fixed cost post. We have a post about inventory management, and we link all this to our ultimate guide to e-commerce. So that's how the pillar content strategy looks like in real life. Now, what are the good news for you? Most of you, just knowing the Startup Junkie community, most of you are kind of early on developing your content strategy. And so while for us was painful to go through that 15,000 blocks that we had to reorganize our topic clusters, also kind of developing some net new pillar pages. In your case, you're kind of getting, you're an opportunity to starting it right from the start. So you're doing it right from the start. You're having a blank page, so you don't need to do a ton of work to organize your content in a topic cluster way. So I'm going to share now with you what's a step, what is the process for creating topic clusters, because it's different, right? It's not different, it's hard. And so you need to kind of, it takes a lot of time. And so you need to be smart about it. So the 3 steps are the following. Step 1 is you need to identify your product keywords. So the product or service you're selling, you need to identify what are the keywords for that product. And we're going to talk about how you start with product and then go to content. Step number 2 is you need to map your product keywords to topic clusters. And I'm going to show you examples in the next few slides. And then step 3 is you're going to identify keywords for your blog posts. Now, you're still researching keywords. The point here is you're not trying to rank for each keyword individually. You're trying to use them as a group so that they cover a topic that gives you authority, not only on those keywords you wrote for, but the entire variation of keywords you could have that are covered by that topic. So in the past, you might need 50 blog posts to rank for 50 keywords. Maybe now you can get away with only doing like 3 or 4 that will cover the entire 50 variations of the keyword. So those are the 3 steps. So before we start with the 3 steps, we need to define how does that topic cluster look like? What is the MVP of the topic cluster? And it's 1 pillar page. That's crucial. The second part is the satellite smaller niche blog posts that surround a topic cluster. So you need at least 3 of those surround satellite articles, 3 to 6. That's the range. Let me see if I think we have some questions here. Kosha users on iPhones. I'm not sure what that means, so I'm gonna keep going. Cool. So that's how your topic cluster looks like. So again, 1 pillar page, 3 to 6 blog posts, reinforcing that topic cluster. So the first layer of your strategy is you need to think of the keywords that are related to your product, right? And the reason we do this is they're usually the higher intent of purchase keywords. They're not the highest traffic, but they're the keywords related to the people who are closest to actually wanting to buy what you sell. So like in HubSpot, we could talk a ton about sales, sales strategy, sales methodology, but if someone is searching for CRM, that keyword is much more closer to someone who's actually going to buy our sales products and download our free CRM than, you know, sales strategy or how to build a great sales team. So we start first with the product keywords. So for HubSpot, here are a few examples, right? Email tracking, calls to action, or CTAs, a knowledge base, right? If you have like a FAQ page on your website or a resource for your customers on how to use your software, your product or service, you have a knowledge base. So all these are examples of product pages that we have at HubSpot. We also have email marketing. We also have, marketing automation. We also have CRM, as I mentioned before. So there's a ton of product pages that we could come up with. So that's step 1. The next thing is you map your product keyword or that feature, let's say CRM, to a topic cluster. Now, the product page tells the customer the how, right? How do you implement the strategy? What's the actual, how does it look like to actually implement it? The topic clusters are more about the concept, the strategy, the when, the where, the why. So there's a ton that you can cover with topic clusters, but you first start with the product, then you go to topic clusters, and what are those topics that are the most closely related to your product. And again, every product should map to at least one topic cluster. So here are a few examples. For example, let's say we have our SEO tool, our tool for optimizing for SEO. That's a product page. We'll have a product page and the URL will be optimized for SEO tool. Now, if we want to create a pillar page for a content topic cluster, we wouldn't name it exactly the same as SEO tool. We'll name it SEO strategy. And the thing is, we don't want the pillar page to compete with our product page. It would be terrible if someone is searching for CRM and instead of getting that result in Google, that first result, we want that to be the HubSpot CRM. We don't want that to be, you know, 5 ways to determine which is the best CRM for you or how to build a great team by leveraging technology. We don't want content to be ranking higher than our product. Now, it could sometimes happen, especially if you have great content that is so well written that it would cover like the entire topic cluster, including your product keyword. But in general, you want to separate the 2 keywords. And there are a couple of more examples of how you could do that. Again, if you're thinking of our SEO product being the topic cluster, our product page will be, you know, the SEO and content strategy. SEO and content strategy tools. Now, our pillar page will be the ultimate guide to SEO, and you know, you name the year, right? 2020, 2021, 2022. And then you could have the satellite posts who are more niche. They're going to more specific elements of what is SEO, like, you know, great SEO blogs and websites, an article about your Google rank doesn't matter anymore, and stuff like what is SEO anyway. So again, you have your product page, you have your pillar page, which both target different specific keywords, and then you have your satellite elements or blog posts that reinforce the authority of your SEO content. So we won't go through this today. I just want to leave these kind of form or idea with you as you go back to your business and you're thinking about, okay, how can I grow my business? How can I generate more demand, more leads for my sales teams or for myself through content strategy? First, think about your product or service. What is the keyword that defines your product? And then what is a pillar page keyword that I could build that is the most closely related to my product page keyword? Once you've done that, once you've picked that cluster head keyword, the broad, high level keyword of your pillar page, then you go in and identify the longer tail keywords, the more niche satellite pieces of content that you're going to build around your pillar page, right? And again, it should be about 3 to 6 of this, and each should target, ideally 1 or 2 keywords, maybe 3. So you're targeting more keywords with your cluster. Again, it's not a matter of covering all the variations of keywords. Go ahead. Sorry, was there a question?
I think somebody just accidentally unmuted themselves.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna keep going. And by the way, if you have questions as I go through, please put them on the chat, or if you feel like an urgency to ask, you feel free to unmute yourselves and ask. Because I know this can be pretty heavy, just listening to all these slides about SEO straight for like 55 minutes. So I'll keep going, right? So again, first pillar page, first product page or product keyword, then topic cluster keyword, and then longer tail keywords. You're trying to amass a number of keywords that would give you authority on a specific topic. So again, another example, let's say our pillar page is about content marketing. So we'll have the ultimate guide to content marketing, but then we could have other blog posts that are a little bit less broad that reinforce our pillar content. So, content marketing strategy, brainstorming. Maybe we can have one post that is talking about blogging and blogging mistakes and blogging best practices. So maybe I'm targeting 3 keywords there, but we're talking about blogging. Maybe one about buyer personas or buyer's journey. Maybe we can have one post targeting both keywords. But again, all these kind of surround our pillar content. And the ultimate, the intent of this is, if I have a pillar content and the satellite pieces of content, I'm giving a strong signal to Google that I am an authority on that topic and all its keyword variations. So the next question we always get is, well, Jose, this all sounds great in theory, but in practice, as we're looking at keywords, sometimes it's hard. Like if we go back here, right, content marketing strategy or blogging, right? Couldn't blogging be a pillar page? Well, it could, right? Now in this example, we're using it as a satellite blog post, not as a pillar page, but you could have blogging be a topic head keyword by itself. So how can you decide, as you're looking at all these keywords and all these topics, which are really valuable as a pillar page and which should you treat as a little bit of a longer tail keyword? And so here's a kind of rule of thumb, and here's like a point or score system. It's give or take. You can iterate a little bit and see where you get at, but this is very helpful. This is how the team at HubSpot does it. So the first thing is we're trying to look at that term that let's say we're trying to look for a pillar page and a pillar page keyword to rank for or to shoot for. The first thing is, well, what's a monthly search value for this search term? It said, is it greater than 15,000 monthly searches? So in our case, right, it could be a little different for different companies or different industries, but in our case, if it's over 15,000 searches a month, that is a broad enough high value of traffic topic cluster to shoot for. So that's one point for us. Now, can I also reinforce that high monthly value of searches topic pillar page with satellite articles that each by itself are over 2,000 monthly searches? So again, like if we're talking about this example, right, we have content marketing, over 15,000 views a month or searches a month, like way over 15,000. But like Blogging itself is way over 2,000 as well. Buyer persona, way over 2,000. Writing skills, brainstorming, all those topics that are going to be my cluster blog posts are each targeting keywords are over 2,000. And so if I can get that as well, now I can add 2 points to my pillar page keyword. So now I have 3 points. So that will be enough. That will be a pillar page. Now, there are some other criteria to determine if it should be. So does the topic align directly and closely to one of your products? If it does, and that's 1 point, right? You want the keywords and the topic clusters to relate as directly as possible to your product. And also, is it a term that is going to grow in search volume pretty quickly and it's not highly competitive for? Like, there's not a ton of people already trying to compete for that keyword. So that's a huge find. That is 1 point. So if you know 3 or 4 years ago you were writing about blockchain or IoT, there was already a ton of content, or like augmented reality. There was already a ton of content, but not enough to be impossible to get in. You could still write 3 or 4 years ago about blockchain, IoT, and augmented reality. You'd still get great results in SEO, while that keyword search monthly value was going up significantly. So you're positioning yourself as an authority on a term that is going to be a high volume of search term pretty quickly. So that's a great find. If you can find that, I would argue that's probably more than 1 point. I'd probably argue that's 2 points, especially as a startup. You're getting into new things. I would put a ton of value on finding those keywords. So what are some strategies to finding the specific keywords? Like, all right, Jose, I have a business and our business does X. We're fintech, where we have a payment processing system for e-commerce. And we want to search for keywords, right? We want to know which keywords should we be evaluating. So there are several tools you can use. Ahrefs, SEMrush, Keywords Everywhere are great tools for helping you kind of surface good target keywords to go after. One strategy is to actually search for one of your head keywords that you've chosen. Let's say email marketing, right? Or marketing automation. Let's say I search for that on Google. One thing that I would do is I would scroll down, right? Let's say in this example, content marketing strategy. I would search for content marketing strategy and go down. Google shows you at the end, you know, people also look for this, or related searches. And so you would also click on those suggestions by Google that are similar searches to get more ideas on the keyword. If you combine this with Keywords Everywhere, so Keywords Everywhere could give you something like what we have here on screen. Gives you a good view at the value of each keyword and how difficult it is to rank for it, and the cost of if you want to put ads on those keywords, how much more costly it would be. So again, more tools for finding keywords. Again, Keywords Everywhere, a great tool. Our marketing team really likes that tool. It has nothing to do with HubSpot. We're just sharing what we use here. So you get something like what you see there on the right. So you can actually see the volume of that monthly search. So content marketing, what is content marketing? 90,000 searches a month. So that's a pretty good topic to go after, right? Now that's one, finding the keywords. Number two is you need to identify what's your competition for that keyword, right? And so what you do is you do these searches and you try to see who comes up repeatedly. So I'll give you an example, and there's a slide with an example as well. But today I was kind of searching for, like, I was preparing for this and I was looking for marketing, email marketing, and I was looking for the competition. Now, one common mistake people do is they think their companies that are the product competition are going to be their content competition. That's not the case, right? Our product competition on HubSpot is, we've looked at like a Salesforce or Oracle or Marketo. Those are like products that compete with us. They're in the same industry, so they're our competitors. They are not our competitors in the content realm, right? Because we have a pretty solid content machine, right? When it comes to content marketing, we blow the lights out of our product competition. So Marketo, Salesforce, they can't compete with us on content marketing. So when we look at our competition, we're not looking for them. We're looking for like Neil Patel, right? If you search for marketing related, Seth Godin, right? These are people who, if you search for the type of keywords we're trying to rank for, we don't usually see our like product competition. We see is Neil Patel, we see SEMrush, or like we see Moz a ton. So these are the companies that we're competing against for SEO. So again, do the searches and see who comes up frequently, and be prepared, because many times it won't be your industry competition, it will be a different type of competition. And those are the people you need to focus on. So another example is if we were searching for e-commerce. Let's say HubSpot really wants to go into the e-commerce segment, start getting more customers in the e-commerce segment, because we have a very strong tool for e-commerce. We have a great partnership with Spotify, with Shopify. And so we want to write about e-commerce. So who's our competition? And so if we go in, we'll see, well, Shopify is there, BigCommerce is there, and Oberlo.com is there. Now, this is a case where companies are our competition, but again, not always the case. And so what I do is then I want to do is I want to plug their URLs into a competitive keyword research tool. Like HubSpot has one, but SEMrush is pretty good, and Ahrefs is pretty good too. So what it does is you put your own domain, right? Let's say it's HubSpot.com against BigCommerce.com, against Oberlo.com, against Shopify.com, and we put it in there, and it starts tracking where is the opportunity, or where's the competition the fiercest, and what is the gap, right? If I'm competing with these people for authority on e-commerce content, what are they doing that I can learn from? Where are they seeing that I can sag, for example? And so one thing that HubSpot likes to look at is the gap analysis. What this means is a tool like Ahrefs will tell us, well, of the competitors you listed, they're all ranking for the keyword Google shopping, and you're not ranking for it, right? So it will start telling you where are they showing up that you're not showing up. That's a signal for you to, all right, I probably need to get going on working on this topic, because everyone else is there and I'm not. So that's a gap there. SEMrush has a similar tool named Keyword Gap. Again, what are keywords our competition, our content competition is ranking for that we're not ranking for? Maybe we should take a look at it. So again, traffic share feature as well. So our competitor is ranking high. What about a specific keyword? Who's getting the most traffic for that specific keyword? Like a keyword like e-commerce, very broad. Who's getting most of the traffic for the search e-commerce? Is it Shopify? How much are they getting? Is it like 40% of the traffic? They're pretty solid on it. Like I'm pretty sure if you search for inbound marketing, like obviously it's going to be HubSpot, by how much? Is it like 50% of the traffic goes to HubSpot assets, or is it 20%? Who's the next one? Is it close or is it far away? So it gives you an idea of the strength of the positioning your competition have on certain topics, and maybe tells you this is a good one to go after, or maybe it tells you, hey, let's probably sag here. They're sagging, we're going to sag. We're going to go a different route, right? So again, traffic share by domains, Oberlo, pretty strong in what remains to e-commerce. So we're going to be paying close attention to what our Oberlo is doing related to e-commerce content, right? So now we use, we kind of document all this research. We want to kind of make sure that we document everything that we're learning about keywords that we should go after, who's actually ranking for them right now, how fierce is the competition, and what could we do to start ranking better for those keywords, right? And so once you organize, what you're going to write about and how you're going to go at it and who's going to be your competition, you start writing. Then want to establish a way of tracking if things are moving in the right direction. Like, is this investment, is this effort paying off? And some will and some won't, right? It's almost like investing in the stock market, not as random, but well, kind of the same. You look at the fundamentals, you're like, this is a good stock, it's gonna go up. And you know, if you're doing your homework right, you'll kind of get it right a lot of times, but you'll also sometimes get it wrong. So the best way to know where you're getting it right and where you're not getting it right is by tracking. So here are a few KPIs that we measure that we think it's a good way of tracking results. So first is you want to track your pillar page. Like that's the anchor of your strategy, your long format, you know, ultimate guide to X type of page. You want to see that's a huge investment in time, and a lot of your success is depending on the success of the pillar pages. So you want to track, you know, are we ranking high for the keyword of our pillar page? Are we getting a ton of backlinks? So as many of you know, backlinks, or what's called like the off-page SEO, is basically, are we getting other people to reference what we do or what we write about in their own writings? That gives you a ton of credibility. If a ton of people reference back at your content, it tells Google, hey, everybody that talks about email marketing, at some point in their article, they have a backlink to HubSpot. That must mean that HubSpot is actually the ultimate authority on this topic because everybody just references them, right? If I'm talking about fantasy, I'm going to talk about Tolkien. And everybody, if they're doing a serious job about talking about fiction writing and fantasy writing, they're going to mention Tolkien and they're going to mention J.K. Rowling at one point. So for Google, that's a signal. Oh, so in regards to fantasy writing, Tolkien and J.K. Rowling are two authors that should always show on top because they're the utmost authority on that topic. So same with backlinks, right? Backlinks are people saying you are the ones who know the most about that topic. So backlinks is a huge, huge KPI to track. Of course, you want to see how many organic views per month you're seeing, how many total views per month, and what is your conversion rate, right? At the end of the day, we're not doing SEO for our ego, right? It's not an ego exercise. It's not like, oh, I'm ranking first, so I'm pretty cool. At the end of the day, you're not doing this either for just getting more traffic to your website. At the end of the day, you're doing this because it will generate more business for your business. It will generate more transactions, either more sales opportunities or more leads for your sales team if you're in a B2B, or you're going to get more people who are going to buy your product if you're in the B2C segment. So you need to track conversion rate. How many people who were searching for what you're ranking for clicked on that article, came to your website and actually did something, right? Did they bounce? Did they stay there? Did they actually purchase something? Did they leave you their information? Did they download something? Did they have an action? So track conversion rate of your traffic for your pillar pages. Because it happens sometimes, you may have a very popular topic that is ranking high, but it's ranking high with non-buyers. And so that is a waste of time, right? And you'll see that in conversion. Oh, this is the most traffic I get to this topic, but none of those people who go there actually end up buying my product. So it's great to have, it's a good ego exercise, but it's not a good business exercise. I rather rank high for the topics that actually bring in people who have intent of purchasing what I have to sell. And you do the same thing with blog posts and with your entire cluster. If you look at it from a topic point of view, you want to end up looking at how much of that monthly search volume am I capturing? Like if I invest so much on ranking high for email marketing, and that has, 90,000 searches a month, how many of those 90,000 are coming to me? Is it 45? Is it half of it? Is it 10% of it? Is it 80% of it? Is it getting better with time, right? So I want to measure my authority on a very broad topic as well. And that's how you measure. And I'm going to leave you with also some resources I'm going to share with the members of the Startup Junkie community through Caleb. We're going to share the slide deck with links to these resources. But that's all I have for today. I'll open the next 10 minutes or so for any questions you have about SEO, HubSpot, or myself.
Well, while we wait on some questions to come in, Jose, I just want to thank you again for another great presentation. Very resourceful, and I know everybody watching has gotten something from it. So if you have questions for Jose, feel free to drop them in the chat box and we'll read them, or just unmute yourself and ask him.
Thank you all, and thank you for being here. Yeah, it's I know it's heavy, but it's fun. Like as I said in the beginning, I really believe that this knowledge can give you a business competitive advantage, right? Oh man, James, thank you. Best SEO presentation I've seen. You know what? Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we're recording this, and so we'll put this up on our YouTube page and put it on the Startup Junkie website and Startup Junkie social media accounts for those who want to go back and reference it. And I'll also send out the email with a link to this video as well to everybody that registered. I guess that's a sign that you did a really good job of presenting, Jose.
You know, my experience with this presentation, I enjoy it a lot, but I know it's heavy. Like I've had people come to me on LinkedIn, which is actually I recommend if you want to have questions later, just connect with me on LinkedIn. I have people come in like a few hours later. I'm like, I was just exhausted, like mentally exhausted after the presentation. I needed a few minutes to regroup. And then if you have questions later on, you want to ask them through LinkedIn, I'm available. I'd love to help.
And I can link to your LinkedIn too in the email that I send out to
yes,
everyone who registered.
That'd be great.
Easy for everybody.
Cool. And I have, cool. Yeah. Also, like I there's a couple of people asking about like HubSpot itself. Same thing. LinkedIn, send me a note. We'll talk about it there. I don't want to kind of talk specific use cases in this presentation, but I'm also available and able to help through LinkedIn. All righty. So what do you say, Caleb? Should we give one more minute, or should we call it a day and have people ask on LinkedIn if they have more questions?
We can let everybody, you can give 10 minutes back to everybody's day. And like I said, I'll send out that email, link to your LinkedIn, clip of the video. And then if they have questions, they can follow up with you, and we'll go from there.
I love it. Thank you very much, Caleb. Thank you for helping set this up. It was all you, right? This happened because of you. So everybody, if you can write a note of appreciation to Caleb because he made this happen. So thank you, Caleb.
Absolutely. Happy to do it and happy to have you.
All right. Well, I guess let's go and bye everyone, right?
Bye.
All right.